In this video, I'm reviewing the brand new Ram 1500 Rebel. This truck has wowed automotive journalists and truck buyers alike since its debut a few years ago, and that's because this Ram goes beyond rugged looks. It's very functional, it has a comfortable ride, and the interior is by far the best in class with all the latest technology. So if you're interested, let's get started. First, I want to give a big shout out to Jack Phelan, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. They made this video possible, so if you're in the market for a brand new or used Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram, definitely check out this dealership. Their website info is on the screen and in the description below. Since the 1500's debut in 2019, Ram has been adding new features each and every year. The biggest change to the 2020 Ram is the addition of the optional EcoDiesel V6, and night editions which give the Ram a blacked out look. For 2021, the biggest addition is of course the TRX Ram 1500 powered by a Hellcat engine. This is meant to compete head-on with the new Ford Raptor. But as for features, there is now a new heads-up display, digital rear-view mirror, and snowplow prep package that is available on some trim levels. There's also a brand new limited Longhorn 10th anniversary trim. Today I'm back behind the wheel of a brand new Ram 1500, but this is the Rebel edition, and the Rebel is the off-road version of the Ram 1500. It definitely looks different on the outside, it looks a little bit different on the inside, but there are mechanical differences between this Rebel versus all the other trims for the Ram 1500. The Rebel really competes with the Tundra TRD Pro, which has been out for a while, and also the new Trail Boss from Chevy. So these are kind of like off-road variants. They have better suspension, meaner looks. All right, let's start out with the outside. So what's different about the Rebel? Well, you could tell right away the front end looks completely different. The grille design is very different. You have two big nostrils and you get a lot of matte black with the grille, and it just looks different and it looks more aggressive paired up with those LED headlights. I like the look. And on bottom bumper, that's not just for show. That chrome piece, that's actually solid metal. That is actually a skid plate, and the rest of the bumper underneath is also metal too. So this definitely has off-road in mind. To me, I like this look better. I think it looks more aggressive, more manly, and I would prefer this look over the other trims for the Ram 1500. So on the side, the profile still looks like a full-size truck, except with the Rebel, the wheels and tires are very different. The wheels are 18-inch alloy wheels. They're different for the Rebel, but take a look at those knobby tires. 33-inch all-terrain tires. They're the largest that's fitted on the standard Ram 1500, and it definitely fills up the wheel wells. So I'm gonna let you guys know how they feel on the road, because traditionally with knobby tires like this, you're gonna feel more harshness and hear more from the road. And moving to the back, there's not much difference with the Rebel. It still has that good look. It's a good chiseled, big, full-size truck look in the rear. And with all Ram 1500s, you have dual chrome exhaust tips that's sticking out on the bottom. On the Rebel, it's like a shadow chrome color. Now, there's a couple things on the outside that are optional features on this Rebel that I want to show you guys. First, look at the Ram boxes, okay? There are storage boxes on both sides of the fenders. And if you look inside, there's actually plenty of room. There's plenty of room, and they have drain holes. So in case you want to put drinks, you want to put, I don't know, you want to have a tailgate party, you want to fill it with ice and drinks, you could drain it out very easily. And that's on both sides. And you do get an optional plug for your tools, but that's only on the driver's side of the Ram box, not on the passenger side. Now, one bad thing about the Ram box is it does take up your bed space. It's about 3 inches on either side. However, Ram still says, even with the Ram box equipped, you can still fit a full 4x8 sheet of plywood and it still lays flat. Now, another really cool feature is the tailgate. It opens up multiple ways. It is dampened, so when you open it traditionally, it goes down slowly, and when you lift it back up, it feels very light. Very, very light. In fact, I can close it with one finger. But you can also open it a separate way right down the middle. Well, it's not exactly in the middle. It's more like a 60-40 split. But you can open it sideways too, which is really nifty. So in case you had some, I don't know, long 2x4s or whatever that you only wanted to stick out from one side, you can do that. The only drawback to this is it kind of looks ugly, the way the tailgate is split. Not down the middle, but like 60-40 split, so that's a trade-off. But I do think it's very practical and useful, and no one else does it. Now inside the bed, you have a rail system for tie downs. You have a spray and liner in here, but that's it. Now in terms of the bed configuration, you can opt for 5 feet 7 inches or 6 feet 4 inches. The one thing that Ram is behind in terms of the bed is there's no built-in steps. Of course, Ford has the built-in step that pulls out from the tailgate, which is really innovative. And then Chevy put steps on the bumper, which is also nice. It works. But as far as I know, Ram doesn't have anything. There's an optional step that's underneath the bumper you could get, but still doesn't work as well as the other two. Now, something else that's barely noticeable on the outside, but very important when you go off-roading, and that's the ground clearance. A normal Ram 1500 has 9.8 inches, which is significant already, but the Rebel has an additional inch, 10.8 inches. Now, in terms of suspension, the Rebel is also different. You get special shocks, Bilstein shocks, special springs. They're different from the regular Ram 1500s, definitely made to go off-road, but you can also opt for the air suspension, and this one that I'm testing does have the air suspension. And in terms of the ride height, you can have 4 settings rather than 3. So there's an entry and exit one, there's an aero one, a normal one, and an off-road height, and that's where you achieve that maximum ground clearance. Really cool. Now, one last thing that's very important. This is a mechanical difference between the Rebel and all the other Ram 1500s, and that is the electronically locking differential in the rear for the Rebel. This is very, very, very needed for those of you guys that want to tackle anything serious. If you want to tackle some mud, some trails, you want to really tackle the out roads, you want to have a locking rear differential, which is equipped in all the Rebels. Now, there is a trade-off with having this. You lose all-wheel drive, but in here you get the standard 4 high, 4 low, and 2-wheel drive, along with the locking rear differential. And those of you guys that haven't seen the shifter in the Ram, you're in for a treat. So take a look. It's just a rotary knob, but this knob looks good. It feels good. It's made out of aluminum. The way it clicks just feels satisfying, and it just works well and looks good. Now, moving to the inside, there's really not that much difference between a Rebel and a regular Ram 1500. There's a few places that say Rebel, okay, so that's nice, and a few trim pieces that kind of looks like carbon fiber-ish, which makes it stand out a little bit in a subtle way. But outside of that, that's pretty much it, and that's not a bad thing, because the interior of a Ram 1500 is the best in the industry by far, by far. Now, moving to second row, very nice place to be in. This one is equipped with optional leather. The leather design is not as elegant as the one in the Limited, but it still looks good. It feels good. There's plenty of space in the second row. I'm 5 feet 10, and I have maybe 12 inches of leg room, but headroom is a little bit surprising. Only about 3 inches of headroom. Some of it is taken away because there is a panoramic sunroof in here, but those of you guys that are on a taller side or you have a tall torso, you might find the headroom lacking. And those of you guys that are parents, if you're looking for information about seat latches, car seat latches, there's one on both sides, but there's an extra one in the middle, because this is definitely a wide truck, and you can fit 3 car seats in here pretty easily. And passengers back there get all the goodies. There's speakers on top, because in this one, with the 12-inch Uconnect screen, you actually get 19 speakers in here. You get 2 speakers right above your heads, also 2 pair of vents, and 4 USB ports, and the 12V outlet. So you pretty much get it all. The only thing that's missing back there is climate control, which is really weird. It's not there. I would expect it in a truck like this, but you don't have it. But outside of that, you get pretty much everything. It is very, very comfortable in the second row of the Ram. And it's not just for comfort either. There's a lot of utility. You could fold the seats up and you can make storage space underneath the seats. There's like a lid that flips above, and you have storage space, which is nice. And also underneath the floor, you have hidden storage as well. In this one, I do have the weather mats, but if you lift it up, you can see on both sides, there's like a little storage area you can open, and you can put tools or drinks, whatever. That's really cool and really practical, and you don't see that in any other truck out there. Now moving up front, this is where the Rebel or all Rams really impress, because this is, like I said before, light years better than all the other truck cabins out there. It's not even close. Let's start with the steering wheel. It has nice stitching, it's leather wrapped, and has a good design. Doesn't look very truckish. It's kind of a blend between an SUV and a truck one, but it feels good in my hands, has the right thickness, and the leather feels good, and there's not a ton of buttons to confuse you. So overall, the steering wheel is good. Now moving to the gauge cluster, this is where you can see the Rebel decal on the top, right? So different from the regular Rams, where they say Ram instead of Rebel. And inside, you have a very, very large infotainment screen, and the interface is nice. You can scroll through speedometer, your trip computer, fuel economy, what you're listening on the radio, anything, you can scroll through there, and it's nice and bright. Overall, I like this gauge cluster setup. Real quick on the side, I want to show you guys there are a few buttons here for the power adjusting pedals. So you can adjust it forward and backward. There's also a button to shut off the outlet in the Ram box in case you want to turn that on or off. Of course, let me showcase this huge 12-inch Uconnect screen. Standard, you get 8-inch, but if you do opt for the 12-inch, man, does it look good. It's very responsive, very bright, resolution is very high, and it's customizable. Anything you see in the apps, if you want to put it down, like your shortcut area, you can just drag it there, right? But everything is in there. And things like climate control, which you can adjust, of course, up and down, your temperature, auto, your mode, all that through the touchscreen. But there are buttons on the side that you can also use. And I like that, because sometimes when you're fumbling through the touchscreen, you know what, you don't want to do that, right? Or if you're wearing gloves, it doesn't work. There's buttons on the side that you can use, and I like that. I like that a lot. This Rebel is also equipped with heated seats and heated steering wheel. Unfortunately, no ventilated seat in here. It's not equipped. And there is no 360 view camera system here. There is a large rear view camera, and you can turn on whenever to check out your trailer, but there is no 360 camera system in here. Also, you got front and rear parking sensors, which on a full-size truck, in my opinion, you really need to have. If you want to park this anywhere with other cars, you want to have parking sensors. And there is another switch for tow and for your traction control, and you do have a trailer brake setup over here as well. Now, something else that Ram spent a ton of time on is the center console armrest area. It's really, really useful. But you can see there's a couple cup holders, just space to put a pad or whatever, your phone, and the whole thing slides backward to reveal more space underneath. It's really creative. And of course, you can still open up the armrest, and there's a ton of space inside. But this whole design setup, again, really, really nice versus other manufacturers with their trucks. Basically, you have an armrest to open up, and that's it. And there's nothing but a shifter and a pair of cup holders. On top, you do have a assist button, a SOS button, and a ton of switches to manage this panoramic sunroof. So if you wanted to just open the cover, or if you want to tilt it up, or you want to open the sunroof, I mean, there's a switch for every single function out there. Maybe a little overboard, but I think this is actually not bad versus some of the other manufacturers with one switch, and you have to keep fooling around with it until you get the right setting. Not so much in here. Now, I mentioned about the large knobby tires, right? The 33-inch all-terrain tires that you get on the Rebel. How is it? Well, I've been driving for a while now, and I will say that in terms of road noise, slightly louder. Really, there's not that much difference between this and the Limited I drove. In terms of road noise, it's still very quiet. Now, in terms of just overall feel and bumpiness, I do feel like it's a little bit bumpier. These are truck tires, LT tires, right? They're not passenger tires, so I do feel like there's a little bit more bumpiness to the ride. So slightly more, but combined with the air suspension is doing a really good job at damping things. So overall, this is still a very comfortable ride. Now, besides the slight road noise, what about overall cabin noise? It's good. It's very good. Just like the Limited I reviewed before, it's very quiet in here. You know, I have the radio off, but besides the slight road noise, but wind noise, cars passing by, just outside noise, very, very low. You don't really hear much. I wish there was a little bit more exhaust note, more throatiness, and inside the cabin, you really don't hear it. You really don't hear the exhaust. So that's the good and bad. If you guys wanted a really, really quiet ride, you really could care less about the exhaust note, yeah, this fits that bill. But if you're looking for a louder exhaust, then you definitely want to look at an aftermarket setup. The brakes, as I'm coming to a stop, the brake still feels good. It feels normal. It doesn't feel stiff. It doesn't feel mushy. It's right where you expect it to be. And the Ram comes to a stop pretty easily, so the brakes are good. Now, in terms of visibility, driving position, I think it's really good. Side windows are nice and big. Rear window is big. Even the headrests up, they don't really block my visibility. So visibility is good. And driving position is good because you have great visibility. You're sitting high up, a very commanding view. I mean, this is a full-size truck, right? So you're sitting really high up. You definitely feel like you're above everyone. So overall, driving position and visibility is good. Now, what about engines? There's 4 of them you could choose from. The one I'm driving today comes with just a plain old Hemi V8, and it's a good engine. Close to 400 horsepower and over 400 foot-pounds of torque. This one is just standard. It doesn't have the e-torque. Now, there is another V8, same engine with the e-torque system, which is a very, very mild hybrid system that helps with the engine auto start-stop function, also helps with engine vibrations, and gives you a little bit more torque off the line. And there's a slight upcharge for that. It's a couple hundred more. So there's 2 V8s, and then you have a V6 with also the e-torque system. And lastly, you have the Eco Diesel, which gives you 480 foot-pounds of torque. That's the one I tested in the Limited that I drove not too long ago. And that engine is fine. Acceleration was a little bit slower, but because of that torque, man, you could tow a lot with it. And fuel economy was fantastic, 24 miles per gallon combined. Acceleration is lively. So even though, yeah, there's a big gap between fuel economy between this and the Eco Diesel, there's a big gap between acceleration too. 0 to 60 in this comes in under 7 seconds. So like 6.7, 6.5, which is pretty quick. For 2021, there are now 8 different trim levels. The base Tradesman starts under $36,000 with 4-wheel drive, and then you can minus $3,500 for 2-wheel drive. Then you have the Tradesman HFE, Bighorn, Laramie, and finally the Rebel. The 4-wheel drive Rebel starts under $49,000. Lastly, you have the Limited Longhorn, Limited, and finally the TRX, which starts over $70,000. Depending on which trim you select, there are 2 cabs and 2 beds. You could either have a quad cab or a crew cab, or a 5'7" bed or a 6'4" bed. To conclude, the 2021 Ram 1500 Rebel is a fantastic truck that checks all the check boxes. It has a brawny and aggressive look on the outside, and there are many features such as Ram boxes, multi-action tailgate, hidden storage in the cabin that really make the Ram a useful truck. This Ram 1500 Rebel also gets air suspension for height adjustment, off-road dampers that does a good job around town, and more aggressive tires that actually does well around town too. Lastly, the cabin is light years away from the competition. From the dash design to the large screen to the latest tech features to the beautiful and high quality leather, the Ram 1500 is a truck that you want to drive daily. Is there anything bad to the Ram 1500? Well, the safety features that most manufacturers are including free are not standard, and optional features that you can add on does add up really quickly in price. And there are still surrounding questions about reliability. Can a Ram 1500 hold up? Only time will tell. I'm giving a brand new 2021 Ram 1500 Rebel a score of 119. To learn more about the Ram 1500 and to see where it ranks, check out driversonlyrankings.com. Hit the like and subscribe to the channel and check out these other videos.